In California, if you're going to go through a divorce, need to have certain considerations that you need to think about, which is how are you going to afford the divorce? So how are you going to pay the legal fees? At some point, we may be able to go after the other spouse for attorney's fees, but in the beginning, that's generally on you to determine how are you going to pay for the legal fees involved for a divorce. The next thing is, how are you going to cover things like the mortgage and your living expenses, especially if the other spouse has moved out and you're living in the home or apartment that you were living in together? How are you going to cover those expenses? How are things like taxes dealt with? Are you going to file jointly or are you going to file separately at that point? That's a consideration that has to be done. How are you going to cover expenses for the kids? Your kids might be younger. They may have childcare costs. You may have because you work, or you may have daycare if they're really young. How are you going to cover for the medical expenses for the kids? Most things probably are covered by medical insurance if you're fortunate enough to have medical insurance. But you may have circumstances where, what if something's not covered by medical insurance? How's that going to be paid? These are things that need to be considered by you, and then you really need to talk to an attorney to determine how you're going to deal with these things. Do you need orders in place right from the get-go to address these things so that you can make it through the initial part of your divorce and you can make it through to the end and get your case done without basically going to financial debt and financial ruin? So if you're contemplating going through a divorce, you really should start putting together certain documents ahead of time, because your attorney is likely going to need them, which is make a copy of at least all your current financial account records. That's bank statements, credit card statements, a copy of the deed to your home if you own a home, your lease or car loan payment records, tax returns. At least get the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years of tax returns. Those are very helpful to determine what's the situation been in your marriage in terms of income, what's going on there. You want to get records regarding your kids, medical. You want to get their school records, things like that. You might want to get report cards together. If there might be things you might be filing for sooner regarding custody issues. So the more you pull together, the easier job you're going to help your attorney have to understand what's going on in the marriage so that they know how to deal with things quickly. You're going to need this stuff for your divorce anyways, because your attorney's going to need to be doing a financial disclosure. So you need all these documents together. So now's the time to pull them together at the beginning of your case, or even before you've even started. The more you can provide to your legal counsel, the better you're going to be off in the end. You know, it's really important to pick the right attorney for you. And so you have to consider a number of things. Number one is, does that attorney have a good reputation? You want to look online. Do they have good reviews, bad reviews? So a reputation of an attorney is important, number one. Number two, and I'd say most importantly, is do you feel that the attorney you've talked to or interviewed is somebody that you can work with, somebody that you can communicate with, you feel comfortable with? Because in the end, you're a team. You're working together to work out the resolution of your case. And so you want to feel like they're on your team, that you can call them, you can email them, they're going to get back to you, because that's a big thing. A lot of times people complain, I never hear from my attorney, he or she never contacts me. So you want to have somebody you can work with that you feel is on your side. That's really important in these type of cases, because you're entrusting them with your life and the resolution of your case. That's super important to get somebody that you feel is on your side. You know, it's very important to really prepare for your divorce. Most people should not make a snap decision here. You may get into argument or something like that and say, okay, I've had enough. I'm just going to go. And then they move out. They don't plan anything out. They haven't pulled any documents together. They haven't thought it through. You want to plan this out. This is an important part. The more you're prepared for your divorce or your custody case, the better. You want to have your ducks in a row. Best way to put it. You want to know ahead of time likely where you're going. You want to have interviewed attorneys before you've even filed. You want to determine if you're going to go through a divorce, Who are you going to hire? What can I expect? You want to have things kind of laid out and have an idea of where you're going with this way ahead of time. If you have any further questions about how to prepare for divorce, feel free to contact us at the Maggio Law Firm.